In 1991, 15 countries were born on the same day from the same collapsed empire. Same currency, same command economy, same chaos of transition. 33 years later, the richest of those 15 countries has a GDP per capita of $31,000. The poorest has $1,200. That is a gap of 26 to 1 from the same starting line in a single generation. Today we rank all 15, track the full arc from 1991 to 2024, and answer the question almost nobody asks. Is the ranking today a reflection of policy choices made after independence, or was it already determined by the conditions each country inherited in 1991? The answer is both, but not equally. Starting conditions created a framework. Policy choices determined how far each country moved within that framework, and in a small number of cases, countries escaped their starting conditions so dramatically that the data forces you to ask whether those starting conditions were ever really the constraint at all. In 1991, the spread between the richest and poorest Soviet republics already existed. Estonia, the most economically advanced Baltic republic, had a GDP per capita of roughly $3,800 in 1991 values. Tajikistan was at around $500, a gap of approximately 7 to 1. By 2024, that gap had grown to 26 to 1. The divergence did not slow over time, it accelerated. The top 3 positions in the 2024 ranking belong to Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. Estonia, $31,000, Lithuania, $28,000, Latvia, $23,000. These are not simply post-Soviet success stories. Estonia's income per capita now exceeds Portugal's. Lithuania has surpassed Greece. Latvia sits above Hungary. 3 countries that spent 50 years as Soviet republics have outgrown 3 Western European nations that spent the same 50 years in the free market. How did 3 small nations of under 2 million people each achieve this? The answer requires understanding 3 simultaneous decisions made in 1991 and the years immediately following. First, all 3 rejected the Russian sphere entirely and immediately. All 3 applied for NATO and EU membership within months of declaring independence. All 3 joined both organizations in 2004. Second, they built functioning institutions from scratch, and they built them fast. Estonia became the world's most digitally advanced government. E-residency, digital voting, paperless bureaucracy, within 15 years of independence. Third, they signaled predictability to foreign investors, rule of law, enforceable property rights, contracts that courts would honor. The EU accession process imposed institutional reform as a condition of membership. Institutional reform attracted capital. Capital created growth. The Baltic states are the control group in this experiment. They show what former Soviet republics could become with Western integration, functioning governance, and sustained institutional investment. Russia sits 4th in the 2024 ranking at $15,145 GDP per capita. For an economy sitting atop the world's largest natural gas reserves and the 9th largest oil reserves, that number is underwhelming. Compare it to Norway, another resource-rich country, at $106,000 per person. Russia's oil wealth created what economists call a resource curse. When revenue comes from the ground rather than from productive enterprise and human capital, governments do not need to be accountable to their citizens. The state distributes rents. Citizens depend on the state. Institutions stay weak because there is no political pressure to strengthen them. Russia's 2022 sanctions exposure made this dependency visible in painful detail. When technology imports were blocked, entire industrial sectors discovered they had no domestic alternatives. The military-industrial complex is growing. The consumer technology economy is not. Kazakhstan at $14,000 and Russia at $15,145 are now separated by just over $1,000, the smallest gap in 33 years. We will return to Kazakhstan specifically next week, but within this ranking it represents something important. An oil-rich former Soviet state that managed its resources more intelligently than Russia, attracted more foreign investment per capita, and is now on a trajectory to overtake its former imperial center within this decade. The most striking divergence in the entire ranking exists within Central Asia. Kazakhstan at $14,000, Tajikistan at $1,200, Same region, same Soviet inheritance, same moment of independence. An 11-to-1 gap in a single generation. Kazakhstan had oil and chose multi-vector foreign policy, playing Russia, China, and Western investment against each other to maximize its leverage. Tajikistan had mountains, landlocked geography, poor infrastructure, and governance structures that never moved past Soviet-era control patterns. The gap between them is not destiny. It is the compounded result of choices made over 30 years about institutions, investment, and international orientation. In the middle of the ranking sits a group of countries that resists easy categorization. Belarus, under Lukashenko, maintained Soviet-era industrial policy longer than any other former republic. GDP per capita today is approximately $8,000, higher than Ukraine's, achieved through near-total economic dependence on Russia, subsidized energy, and state-controlled industry. It is a model with no sustainable future. Georgia, after its 2003 Rose Revolution, implemented aggressive anti-corruption reforms that transformed its business environment within a decade. GDP per capita reached $7,800. Armenia, despite the 2020 war with Azerbaijan over Nagorno-Karabakh, has maintained steady growth. Azerbaijan benefits from Caspian oil, and without that oil, its position in this ranking would look significantly different. Moldova sits at $6,500, making it the poorest country in Europe by this measure, a fact with serious implications we will examine in a dedicated video. The complete 2024 ranking: Estonia at 31,000, Lithuania at 28,000, Latvia at 23,000, Russia at 15,145, Kazakhstan at 14,000, Belarus at 8,000, Georgia at 7,800, Azerbaijan at 7,500, Armenia at 7,000, Turkmenistan at 6,900, Moldova at 6,500, Ukraine at 5,038, Uzbekistan at 2,500, Kyrgyzstan at 1,700, Tajikistan at 1,200. The top three are EU members. The bottom three are landlocked Central Asian states with weak institutions and high dependence on Russia. The pattern is not random. It is almost entirely explained by the presence or absence of three factors: EU integration, oil wealth, or functioning institutions. The 26-to-1 gap did not happen by accident. In 1991, the effective choices were integrate West, stay in Russia's orbit, or survive on whatever resources your particular piece of the collapsed empire happened to contain. 33 years of data shows which of those choices paid off. Next week, Kazakhstan in detail, because the country now closest to overtaking Russia's GDP per capita has a story that deserves its own video. Subscribe to the Collapse Index. The data is here every week.